Yo, what's going on, you guys? Your boy Ben Mahari here, representing Mahari Nation Sports Podcast here. Back at you guys with another video again. And want to salute to my brothers in the LDBC here for doing their thing out there, man. And go ahead and check out some of their videos. Now, I don't talk boxing as much as I should on this video because it's primarily about basketball, but this one right here has really been intriguing my attention. And it's the fact that Tyson Fury has been trying to duck Deontay Wilder from a third fight in the last since last year, and it has failed miserably. Because right now, they I've heard various times of words Eddie Hearn, Anthony Joshua's promoter, kept saying that they're going to announce the fight between Fury versus Joshua by next week, this upcoming Saturday, whatever. I've even had notifications from the Athletic that the fight was going to be announced, last weekend. Last Saturday, and kumbaya, the fight has not happened, which tells me that the whole arbitration process is still going on. You know what I'm saying? Because why do you think that Deontay Wilder has not said one word about this? Why do you think that? It's very simple. They're under gag orders not to speak anything about the whole arbitration process. That's why. Okay. And so Tyson Fury thought that he could basically run away from a third fight with Deontay Wilder, citing, I need to stay active, citing that, if there's no crowd, that I will not fight or whatever. And we all know those are smoke and mirrors. At least we know that. I'm not talking about, the trolls and the haters out there that don't know that. Or they know about it and they just don't want to acknowledge that. But the point is this. Tyson Fury thought that he could try to duck away from a third fight. And it's like, bro, you signed on the dotted line on the rematch clause and leading up to the second fight, that if the rematch clause should happen, that you have to honor it, regardless of what fight you wanted to take. And Deontay Wilder, after he lost to Tyson Fury in a controversial way due to the whole tainted glove situation, okay, he activated his rematch clause, and the rematch clause was set and granted. Okay, if the pandemic never happened, you best believe that the third fight would have taken place at that time. But the pandemic happened, and no fights were taking place during that period of time. Now we're in 2021. Now the whole sports world has gotten to a bit of a clearer direction of how to navigate through this whole pandemic situation. And now that we're getting boxing, matches back on track again, you know what I mean? It's now opened up the leadway to possibly making the fight to possibly take place. Okay. So this is where I really start asking myself a lot of these journalists out there, except for this one reporter. I forgot her name, but she does a good job, actually, Michelle Joy Phelps. There you go. Asking the key questions to Eddie Hearn. You know what I mean? Because the thing that I've noticed about with these boxing journalists is that they basically give it softball questions. You know what I mean? They don't give the hard questions that people need to hear or need answers from. And when she asked, about the whole arbitration situation, this was the first time that I've heard any other reporter ask about the whole arbitration situation between Tyson Fury and Wilder. And Eddie Hearn puts his hands up and said, "Hey, I have nothing to do with this." You know what I mean? I'm just paraphrasing. He said like that's on them and all that stuff, which means that it's as simple as this: that you basically don't know when the fight is going to happen or if a fight is ever going to happen. All right. Because I've even said this outside of this whole thing is this that the rematch clause is set and granted. All right. Deontay Wilder is not accepting any step aside money. All right. He will not accept any step aside money. He's not accepting any mandatory fights. All right. The WBC tried to cover this up and try to enforce a mandatory, and that's not going to happen because when the rematch clause was called out by Deontay Wilder's team. All right, the rematch clause was supposed to be honored and it's supposed to be committed by Tyson Fury. But we all know that Tyson Fury is a shady piece of work that's going to try to you cheat and try to circle around the rematch clause to get to Anthony Joshua. That is basically now fallen back on his face. You see, they thought that they could basically run away from the whole rematch clause situation and could go at this untouched. Now they're finding out it's much more difficult to follow than they imagined. Because right now, the way I see it is the rematch between Wilder and Fury, the third fight, is the one fight that's possibly going to happen the most out of this whole outcome than Fury versus Joshua. All right, and more importantly, Tyson Fury doesn't have a UK boxing license in his home country. Okay, why do you think that they're trying to set up the fight in Saudi Arabia? I mean, you got to think about this for a moment. If this is the biggest fight in UK history, why would not want to set it up in the UK, in your hometown, in your home country, right? It's simple as to follow, guys. If Tyson Fury would have tried to get to try to apply for a UK boxing license, that means the whole Martin Carefoot situation would have had to been opened up again. It's not hard to follow what's going on, you guys. Tyson Fury has a lot of dirt and a lot of shady stuff in his reputation. Okay, the man should be banned from the sport for life, not just for the glove situation, but for performance enhancing drugs, all right, shading out on promoters and shading out on a lot of his, a lot of his opponents. Okay, and the whole Martin Carefoot situation that's now that UK is basically, still holding off the investigation until if Fury decides to apply for a UK boxing license, that means he would have to open up another investigation. So it's really a messy situation if you really think about it for Tyson Fury. But despite all of that, okay, Deontay Wilder made the answer to fire Mark Breland because he basically said Mark Breland violated the orders that I have, that nobody throws in the towel no matter what. All right, and listen, people have been so critical of Wilder for making that decision. Listen, it's very simple. Breland Breland violated the orders that Wilder set for his entire team. All right, the other members of his team didn't violate the rule, but Mark Breland did. Okay, so if Mark Breland violated the rules that Wilder set off, he deserved to be fired for it. I don't care what anyone else says. You can be sympathetic all you want to, all right? Because these are the same fans that pretty much said, "Why isn't Deontay Wilder firing Mark Breland?" All right. This is during the time when he was still undefeated. All right. So y'all boxing fans are hypocrites. Y'all want to play both sides of the fence, or they just want to jump on one side after the other. You know what I mean? Y'all just some damn hypocrites. But the bottom line is this, okay? Tyson Fury is realizing that he can't duck away from the rematch clause, and he won't be able to do that. He cannot be in any other fights. All right. And even Anthony Joshua. All right. It's not hard to realize that with the rematch clause set and granted, and now you basically are stuck in arbitration. All right. And I've heard some, reports of how that his team didn't take the arbitration very seriously. Now, the way I look at it is I think the arbitrator, in my personal opinion, is going to favor Deontay Wilder and said, you must fight Deontay Wilder in the third fight. That's the way I see it. Now, the arbitrator can make the different ruling and could say, okay, well, Tyson Fury can fight Anthony Joshua with the promise that he fights Deontay Wilder for a third time. That would be a little bit controversial on that part because then it would leave the door open for Tyson Fury to possibly duck away from the third fight and confirm his retirement. All right. So I feel those are the possibly likely outcomes, but I look at it as simple as this. I think the arbitrator, in my personal opinion, is going to favor in Deontay Wilder's favor and say you must fight him a third time because you're trying to intentionally blackball him from getting another opportunity at the heavyweight crown and try to get him out of boxing. All right, which is unfair, which is completely bogus by any stretch of the imagination. You understand what I'm saying? So I'm telling you guys, you think the drama, you think all that is over with? Nope, we haven't even got barely scratched the surface of what's been going on around here. And Tyson Fury really thought that he could be slick enough and be shady enough with all the dirty stuff that he's done over his boxing career that he thought that he could duck away from a third fight with Deontay Wilder, knowing that he signed the rematch clause. Think again, think again, bald head, think again, because of at the arbitration he says that you must fight Wilder a third time. Watch. There's going to be so much pressure on Tyson Fury to beat Deontay Wilder clean in the middle of the ring because now all the cheating stuff is now out in the open. All right. We've had numerous boxers out there that have been telling stories about all the cheating stuff and all the dirty tactics that Tyson Fury likes to use on his sparring partners. The stories are out there now. And you better believe that Wilder's team this time around will be best equipped and be prepared for anything that Tyson Fury and his team will do. Take Listen, don't don't mistake yourself this for any stretch. There's no doubt in my mind that Fury's team will do whatever they can to find new ways to cheat to try to screw Deontay Wilder for a third time. You best believe that. And if I were Wilder, be prepared for every scenario that is going to come with it. You know what I mean? You got to put pressure on this dude because Deontay Wilder at this point, he's the main underdog because people don't believe that he can come back and beat Tyson Fury to get his belt back. He's the big underdog in this whole situation. And so Fury has all the pressure on him. He has to show without any doubts or any suspicions that he can beat Deontay Wilder clean in the middle of the ring a second time. And if he can't do it, that's going to add a lot of controversy to the second fight that took place back in 2019. So pressure bust fights, baby. We're gonna see what's gonna happen from here. But that's what I think things stand. I think Tyson Fury made himself look like an ass in front of the entire boxing community if he isn't already. And so right now, this is pretty much chip basically it's cheap change at this point because it's pretty much a laughing stock of what he's been trying to do to duck away from the rematch, and people are starting to notice that. And so that's my 2 cents. You never know what to think with the comment section below. And with that, I'm out. Peace.